Hi guys, today I'll be making a simple chocolate cake with the frosting from scratch. You're watching the Bear Pantry Show. Alright, so here are the ingredients that we're going to need. Let me show you this right up front so you can know. This is 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour, and I didn't sift it, but you can sift it if you want to. This is 3/4 cups of cocoa powder. I did sift this, okay? Let me show you why. See? It will have all these lumps if you don't sift it. And then this is 2 cups of regular white sugar. And this is 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking soda, 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder, and this is a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Those are all the dry ingredients that we're going to need for the cake. Now here are the wet ingredients. A cup of milk. This is 1/2 cup of cooking oil, and any cooking oil would do that's like light colored and flavorless. Okay, so I'm using canola right here. And this is 1 cup of water. And you can trade it out for a cup of coffee, but I don't like coffee. I think I'm the only adult in all of America that don't drink coffee, okay? So I switched out for water. We have 2 eggs, and I have a 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and that's all you're gonna need for the cake. Now come along with me, let me show you what you're gonna need for the frosting up front so you can gather all your ingredients, all right? Okay, now here are the ingredients for the frosting. We're going to use 1 cup or 2 sticks of butter, and I'm bringing this to room temperature. It's really hard right now, but I'm bringing this to room temperature. We're going to use 2 cups of confectioner sugar or icing sugar or powdered sugar, however you know it by. And I sifted this too because this tends to get lumpy. And then 2 whole teaspoons of vanilla extract. And look at my baker's chocolate right here, you guys. I have 2 kinds because Jada bought 2 kinds before. I have the semi-sweet and I have the unsweetened, and you can get the bittersweet too, but we don't really like that one. And 1 of the squares is equal to 1 ounce, and this box had 5 of the squares, so we just need 1 from this one, and that only has 2, so it works out. So you're gonna need 6 ounces of the baking chocolate, and that's all you're gonna need for the frosting. Now let's get started with the cake. Alright, so the hardest part of making this chocolate cake is actually measuring out everything. And I do that even when I'm not doing a show cake. I put things in little bowls because I found out if I don't, I will forget to put an ingredient in. So I've got the oven preheating, and it's at 320 right now, but it has to get to 350, so you hear it beep in a little while. And I believe that's 180 degrees Celsius. I don't know metric, but try. So here's my bowl here with the flour, and I'm adding all my dry ingredients. Then we're putting the baking soda and the baking powder. And they're both the same measurement, 1.5 teaspoons. So whichever bowl it was in, just grab it. And then the salt. And don't forget the cocoa powder, the baking cocoa. And then we whisk. We want to whisk all the dry ingredients first before we start adding in the wet, because we want to make sure that everything is mixed in well, okay? Alright, so it smells good. The cocoa powder smells so good in this right now. See how beautiful it is? And it depends on the cocoa powder that you use. That will change the color of your cake, okay? So now what I do is set this aside, and I get another big bowl, and I'm basically going to put all my wet ingredients in this bowl. So the first thing we want to do is we'll do our egg. And I will whisk that lightly first before I add it in, okay? And so here we go. I'm just going to beat it lightly. Put it out of my way, and then I'm adding the vanilla, and it's a lot of vanilla extract, more than I would normally put in a cake, but I believe because it's a chocolate cake, we want to add the water, or at this point you'll be adding coffee if you're a coffee lover. I don't know why I've never liked coffee. I can't even stand the smell. When I used to have to go to school and catch the bus, you know, when I was going to college, and people would step on the bus with their coffee in hand and sipping it, I would have to get off the bus too. Catch my breath, catch my composure, because I can't stand the smell. Just want to whisk this all together, and we want to put the milk. And I'm using just regular whole milk from the refrigerator, but you can use 2%, 1%, low fat, anything you want to use. But, you know, if you're trying to save on calories and stuff with this stuff, I don't know that it'll make a big difference, because chocolate cake is fattening no matter what you do, right? So I've got all my wet ingredients together. And now what I'm going to do is mix it in with the dry. Alright, so far I haven't lied, right? It's been very simple to do this. So all I'm going to do is mix in the wet with the dry. And notice I'm not using the cake mixer for this, the stand mixer or the hand mixer. It's just a whisk, and all I want to do is just whisk it to where there's no lumps, okay? It might take you a few minutes, and that's all it is. And my oven's ready. It's on 350. It's heated and ready for me. And these cakes are going to bake for about a half hour. But check it a little bit before, because maybe your oven could be a little bit faster than mine, all right? Very simple chocolate cake. My son requested this. He loves everything chocolate, and I have another son, Jory, that hates everything that's chocolate. Isn't it weird how kids are? So just let me go ahead and get this whisked to the point where there's no lumps in it. And when I come back, we'll be pouring it into our cake pans. So I promise you, you can have this cake batter ready in like 15 minutes. I love cake batters like this where you don't have to cream things first. So basically it's all mixed up, and I have my 2 cake pans right here, and they're ready to receive it. I don't use parchment paper in anything that I do. I don't really even know that I know what parchment paper is. I'm thinking it's something like wax paper, but I don't use parchment paper because I just don't. So let me go ahead and pour. And maybe it has something to do with when I was a little girl growing up in Belize. Every time you heard about parchment paper, it's some voodoo lady doing voodoo with parchment paper. So I've always wondered, you know, what it was. And what is it? So now these cake pans or cake tins are kind of deep. That's okay, because I almost prefer for it to be deep than the cake to boil over. And what I'm going to do is just use my spatula right here. And I'm going to go on ahead, just pour every little bit in. And I don't use a scale. I've seen some people use scales when they're trying to measure out their batter. I don't use anything like that. I just kind of eyeball everything, and if it's imperfect, you know, nobody's going to complain. I'm not doing this for a living. I'm not a cake boss or cake decorator. So pretty much it's done. They look about even to me. And this is a really watery batter than I'm used to, so it's definitely going to cook pretty fast. So I'm going to get it in the oven, and when I come back, we would have taken it from the oven, and I'll show you how to take it out of the pan on the wire rack, okay? So let me get it in the oven. Okay guys, so I took exactly a half hour to bake. Take a look. I inserted my toothpick. I kind of threw my toothpick away, but I inserted it in different spots, especially in the middle where I think it's going to be uncooked. I don't want to mess with it yet from the pan to release it yet, so I want to go another 10-15 minutes for it to cool, and then when I come back, I'm going to use my knife to take it out of the pan, or you could use this, like one of those flat spatulas, but I don't have one of those, so I use a butter knife. And then we're going to put it on this cooling rack to go ahead and cool down before we add the frosting. So I let the cakes cool down for like 20 minutes, and I'll take a look at what I'm going to do. I use my little butter knife because I don't have that flat spatula, and I just kind of clear it from the edges, and it should come out pretty easy because we greased and floured the pan. Let me get it off of here. See, it's cool enough that I can hold it. I just learned this little trick recently. On the cooling rack, what you want to do is just rub a little bit of butter, and what that does is make sure the cake doesn't stick, because I have trouble with the cake sticking. Now I see a lot of people who remove the cake on another rack and then dump it off, and I don't have all these racks to use, so I'm going to put it here like this. It's giving a little bit of trouble, so let me loosen up this side because you don't want to force it and break it, okay? Alright, so I finally got this bad guy out of there. It was giving me trouble. That's what happened when the cake batter is kind of thin, but I wanted it thin because we want this cake to be really, really moist. So I'm going to move things out of the way. We'll take a look right here. I already put the bottom one. It's already cooled down. I put the bottom one on the cake pedestal thing. And I have this one cooling this way because this is going to be the top. So this is the bottom. So when you cut the cake, you're going to get a beautiful piece on the bottom. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but for me, presentation is everything sometimes. And so we're going to move this out the way, clean up my hands, and then we're going ahead and make the frosting. So I've enlisted my beautiful Jada to melt the chocolate for me because I'll be honest with you, I'm not really good at working with chocolate. I'm practicing and getting better, but she's really good. So she has a little skillet with water on medium heat, and she's got a heat-safe bowl, and she's just putting it, like sitting it over the water so the steam can go ahead and melt the chocolate. She also does it in the microwave, and she's really good at that too, but she's just showing me a different method. So we're doing 6 ounces. So when I come back, we'll check in on her to see how it's melting. Okay, so she's adding in 1 teaspoon. Well, she has me adding in 1 teaspoon of olive oil. She says that makes it melt a little bit better, and it also makes it shiny. See how well it's coming along, guys? But it takes time, so have patience, alright? Look how beautiful it is, and it's very hot, and we want this to cool down to room temperature before we start working it into our frosting. If not, you're going to get soup. However, the butter has to be at room temperature. It can't be hard, okay? And so when this is cooled down, we're going to come back and do the frosting. Alright, so it's that time now when we need to make the frosting. The cake is still cooling over there. It's doing really well. So I have my butter in here, and it's room temperature. It's always better to do it room temperature. All we want to do is get the hand mixer started and just kind of let it get smooth for a little bit. And see, because it was room temperature, that took no time at all. What I'm going to do now is add I'm glad that my hand mixer can stand on its own. I'm going to add the powdered sugar. Remember I told you guys from the beginning it's 2 cups. And I don't want to put the mixer on it right away because it tends to like fly up in your face. And I don't want to dirty my nice shirt. I should really wear an apron when I'm doing these type of things, right? So we just want to work that in there really well. Pour the vanilla extract in there. So we could just get it a little bit damp. And then what I'm going to do now is turn on the hand mixer again in this to just blend it for a little bit. See, now that looks nice and creamy. That didn't even take 30 seconds to do with the hand mixer. And now it's time to add our chocolate that Jada melted for us. So let me see if I can go ahead and add this in here. This bowl is so heavy, you guys. Oh, it's beautifully melted. Jada did a fantastic job with this for us. We're going to have her more in the kitchen helping us with these Christmas type recipes. Now that Thanksgiving is behind us, we're going to move on to Christmas recipes. And then just mix this really well. This is gorgeous. Let me taste it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's that the unsweet. I don't think it would have tasted as good if I used the bitter chocolate. The semi-sweet and the unsweet is perfect for this. Clean up edges. And then what you want to do is make sure that the cake is completely cool to your touch. Not just warm, but cool to your touch before you start adding that on, or it'll just run over everywhere. It'll melt and run over everywhere. So let me test that. And then as soon as it's cooled, we're going to come back and frost the cake, okay? Okay, so now time to frost the cake. I have this piece here turned down on the pedestal. And I'm using my trusted butter knife. You want to get a good glob of it in the middle. And it all depends on how much filling you like. I don't tend to like too much filling in the inside of the cake when it comes to chocolate frosting. If it's a vanilla type frosting or something, yeah, maybe more, or a cream cheese type frosting. But not chocolate, so I'm not going to put a whole ton of it. There you go, right around the edges. Pretty simple. So now it's time for me to add my top layer of cake. And there goes the top layer. Isn't it gorgeous? And then we want to put a big old glob of frosting on the top. And you know I'm not really good at frosting cakes, right? So we want to go ahead and just kind of spread it around. Try not to like get it too thin on the top of the cake, because if you do, you're going to bring back some cake in, some crumbs, because we didn't crumb coat this. With the frosting, I'm going to make it go around the edges. Hey, this is actually spreading pretty good and coming out pretty decent for somebody who's suck at frosting a cake. I'm going to go around the edges. I must admit, this was the easiest cake to frost because the frosting just spread like satin. So I have a little teaspoon. I don't really even know what I'm doing, but I think I'm doing like, trying to get a little decorative thing going here. I might be mucking it up completely. But this is Barbara's own version of trying to do something fancy on the cake. Beautiful, beautiful. What do you think, Joe? Gorgeous?
Look a little better.
Joe says it. You guys know I can't frost cakes. I always tell you my shortcomings, okay? Okay, so it's time to taste our beautiful cake. It smells good. It looks moist. Let's see if it tastes good. I can't say that I'm a great lover of chocolate cake. I don't hate it, but I prefer white cake to chocolate cake. But this is so good. Wish you guys were here to taste this with me. Now, who am I going to share this with, right? So good, so good. This cake was so delicious. Oh my goodness, there's no aftertaste. That's the thing that I noticed when you make a cake from a box. There's an aftertaste all the time. No aftertaste at all. This is dangerous. This is a pretty dangerous cake because you're going to want to eat the whole thing. It is so moist and so light. It's not dense at all, okay? Very, very light. You have to be very careful when you're putting the layers together because you don't want to break it, all right? Be gentle. Be patient. I have a new friend that keeps telling me, be patient. And I'm not an impatient person at all, so I don't know why he keeps saying that. But anyways, I'm always patient, and I'm telling you guys to be patient with this cake because it is wonderful. You could take this to your next potluck, and you don't have to do it as layers, but I love their cake because I like stuff in the middle. You can do like one big 9x13 and cut it square, right? But then it becomes like brownie, you know, you want a layered cake, right? Anyways, thanks so much for watching. If you liked the video, hit like below, share it for me, share the video for me. I really appreciate that because that's how the word gets out. Thank you for picking up the book, and until I see you guys again, take care. Don't forget to stop by my vlog. Right here on YouTube, it's called Babs Bear Talk. Please be sure to stop by my review channel right here on YouTube. It's called Bear Pantry Talk.